What have you done, especially, being a one-person team and supporting a bunch of different managers? What have you done to really drive consistent process and hold hiring managers accountable, or I guess work with them better on ensuring you both stay accountable towards running that type process?
Yeah, well, let me start by saying I think great process starts with that clarity and alignment. And that was really kind of the point of that line. The biggest problems I've ever run into, or, I guess the most common problems I've ever run into, or bottlenecks in the hiring process, always comes back to misalignment somehow between recruitment and the hiring team. And maybe it's not even just between talent acquisition and the hiring team. Maybe it's just the hiring managers at every step of the interview process, right? Maybe they're not clear on what they're looking for or what needs to be assessed. And so I think great process starts with making sure that everybody is on the same page. And that sounds very common sense. But what I'm learning and what I've learned over time is that, you might think you do a great job in your kickoff call or your intake meeting with the hiring manager. But what you realize as you get into the interview process is, oh, there's other people outside of just this direct hiring manager that are influencing the decision making, right? Or, maybe something I didn't address it fully and it's now coming to bear in this process and it's become much more relevant than I thought it would be. And so what I'm trying to do consistently, and I think this is an ever evolving process, but look at how do we really button up our intake and our kickoff call to make sure that we're really truly clear on the candidate profile that we're going after. And that starts with what I'm looking at now, and what I'm really trying to leverage now is AI to help kind of create these resources that I can bring to the intake meeting, rather than saying, hey, we'll create the job description after we do our intake meeting and we talk about what we're looking for. Instead saying, hey, let me use AI to generate a really good job description for this role that obviously we can tweak and we can adjust after we meet and understand where the nuances are. But I can bring this at least to the conversation, and we can just make sure that, hey, is this the general realm of what we're looking for, or are we way off here, right? The other thing you can do there is use AI to kind of custom generate some questions, right? On what, whether it's in the screening process or it's the hiring manager interview, but to say, hey, look, based off of the profile that I'm seeing from, this job description, these are the kind of questions I would like to probably ask. Am I on the right track here? Are we assessing for the right things, or do we need to make adjustments? And are we completely missing the mark? A lot of times I found that in intake meetings and kickoff calls, we are, kind of just data collecting, right? We're just hearing the hiring manager spew from their head what they're thinking about, but we're not really formalizing, the things that we're going to be screening for, or what the process is going to look like, or what the job description requires. And when we do that, you may be a really strong recruiter, but the chances of you missing key information or key information falling through the cracks, it becomes higher, the risk of that. So what I'm trying to solve for now is, how do we do everything on our end to really button up this process early on, so that we can limit the amount of changes or pivots that need to happen mid-process because we forgot something, or we didn't spend enough time talking about one thing that actually became a really critical part of the process. So I think it all starts there. You start with clarity, you start with alignment, and when you do that, your process becomes much easier to build because everybody now is on the same page, right? Everybody understands what their role is and what they're assessing for and what data they need to collect. So that's my philosophy around it. There's a lot that goes into that, but if you can start with clarity and alignment, then everything else really becomes easier.